This is your latest Manchester United transfer news and news this Sunday morning. I always like the Sunday morning show because you get a load of different sort of news that you don't get in the week, because in the UK we do have specific Sunday outlets. But how are you doing this morning? Big news coming in about Sancho, a bit about Grealish, Bellingham, a few other things, and also we're going to do something we haven't done for a while actually. We're going to do a bit of a transfer Q&A at the end. So if you've got questions about transfers or anything like that, we'll work through that as a community and give our thoughts on it. But straight away somebody says we need Ndidi. I think we do need a CDM. Just very, very quickly, I don't want to talk about the game from yesterday. It's the FA Cup. We're through. We've got Brighton on Tuesday. The Premier League's more important. Part of the FA Cup until the semi-finals. The draw comes in tonight. We've got Ricky, Saeed, Adam on with me at 8 o'clock. That's going to be a good show, especially in relation to their fan cams. But what did Harry Maguire say? We played down the middle too much yesterday in the first half and we didn't use the width. This was a tactical issue. Mata and Lingard are not wide players. It made us very narrow. Harry Maguire was spot on, just like he was spot on with his winner. But let's get into the transfer news. Jadon Sancho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Manchester United, however you want to call it. Manchester United given a warning over Jadon Sancho that the money may not be there and you may need to sell to buy. This is worrying. And I think over the weekend with United, it surprised me a little bit that the PR spin has stopped spinning at the most important time. Liverpool win the league. You expect us to be, even if it's a lie, you expect United to put something positive out there. Over the weekend, we've just had, we'd like to buy players, but if their money's not there, we can't do it. It's a difficult market for everyone, especially us. We'll try to buy players, but if it's not sensible or financially viable, we won't do it. You know, all this stuff sort of prepping for the storm, or is it just clever use of words to make Dortmund lower their price? We're going to see what happens with Sancho, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But in the wider picture of what Manchester United are trying to achieve, remember, it's only 2 days away until Angel Gomes can leave this club for free. And look, I know there's a lot of you out there saying, oh look, if Angel Gomes leaves Manchester United, it's not a big thing. It is a big deal. It's nothing to do with whether he'll go and be a great player. If that happens, it makes us look really stupid. But it's more about, if he goes, it's another young player saying no to Manchester United. And we know that Bellingham's probably going to do that as well. But it's a player that we want. Ramsani, who's left. United didn't let him go. They offered him a contract and he went. It just wasn't the contract that he wanted. If Gomes goes, this is another player that we want to keep that is going to say no. And Bellingham has said no. And Haaland said no. So I don't believe they're saying no to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or playing with Bruno and Martial and Rashford and Pogba. I don't think many players in world football would say no to that, especially young players. I think they're saying no to the deals that are being offered. And I think that's what feeds into Jadon Sancho a little bit here. I'm a little bit worried and quite rightly, evidentially sceptical of what Manchester United will do in the transfer window this summer. And I come at this not in an anti-Glazer Woodward way. I come at this in a way that I've just had to watch, and I'm still having to watch, Liverpool Football Club celebrating winning a title. And if they can win a title after 30 years, we can win a bloody title after 6 or 7 years. But what are we doing to do that? There has to be more than Jadon Sancho, but there has to be Jadon Sancho. So what is happening with Sancho? Well, yet again, I think it was Michael Zorg again, or it was some high-ranking person at Dortmund. Sancho didn't play yesterday for Dortmund, and they had their biggest loss, I think, at home in like a decade. They lost like 4-0 to Hoffenheim, I think. Sancho on the bench again for the second game in a row. Dortmund can say what they want about Sancho, but there's definitely a breaking down of the relationship at Dortmund. Now, they said yesterday that they expect to see Jadon Sancho in a Dortmund shirt next season and stay for another 12 months. Now, this is interesting because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said this back in March. You can expect to see Paul Pogba in a United shirt next season. And I think that expect actually isn't a cast iron promise, is it really? Expectations are not realities. I've said this before. You know, I remember Christmas when it was about 12. I expected an Amiga in Championship Manager, and I you know, you never know what Santa's going to give you. And I was like, this is bloody going to happen because I knew he didn't exist then. Sorry about that. He does exist. But I was like, this is going to happen. And on Christmas Day, them expectations, I open up a bloody cassette recorder in Now 20 or whatever it was then, and I'm like, bloody hell, you know. What's all that about then? So expectations don't always meet realities. So Dortmund expecting Sancho to be there next season doesn't worry me. It's about what Manchester United. Zane says Grealish isn't United standard. We'll talk about that. But it's what United do. Now, if this story, and look, it's coming from the Mirror, and you know what I think about the Mirror, but this story's coming out of the Mirror, and they're saying that United are going to have to sell to buy because he's going to cost 110 million. There's two things about this. He's not going to cost 110 million. No way is he going to cost 110 million. There is no deal that is even near 100 million this summer other than Sancho to United. I don't know why James wasn't playing yesterday, Ewan. If anybody does know, let us know. Thanks for the super chat. But Pjanic and Arthur, there was a story in Sky at the start of the week that worried people because Arthur was going to Juventus for 72 million. I said at the time, that's part of the Pjanic deal. What's actually happened is they've swapped Pjanic for Arthur and 10 million quid. So they can call it, that could be a £200 million bid if you want, because it's whatever you value Pjanic, and it's a bit like what we did with Sanchez and Mkhitaryan. Like, they could have been £100 million each. It doesn't matter. 100 million, 100 million, 50 million, 50 million. So their only big deal is going to be Sancho. Now, do United have to sell to buy? Because the players that are talking about United needing to sell to buy, Lingard, well, I'd love to sell Lingard. I think it'd be fantastic for him. Phil Jones, I'd love to sell Phil Jones. Smalling, I think Smalling needs to go for his own career, and he's done very well. Sanchez, we'd love to sell that. Do you think we can sell Lingard, Jones and Sanchez this summer? I mean, look, I'd love to think we can. And if that's going to generate money for Sancho, then great, we'll get Sancho done. What the important thing is, it can't be you've got to sell those players before you sign Sancho, because that's not how the world works. You can't walk into Harrods or bloody Tesco this morning and say, I really like that flat screen TV. Can I have it? Yes, you can. It's going to cost you $3,000. Great. Okay, I'm just going to pop down on eBay and sell a load of stuff to buy it. Will you keep it for me? No, because here comes Mr. Chelsea with the $3,000. He's going to buy it now. Oh, but I really do want it. Well, you haven't got the money, have you? But I will have when I sell it on eBay. Yeah, dream on. So United cannot do that. The whole you've got to sell to buy is a load of crap. That story's a load of nonsense. We'll either buy or we won't buy. And if you're going to be in for Sancho, you've got to be in there very, very rigorously from the start. So I think United are. The comment from Ollie that I really took over the weekend was this. I think it was to Norwegian TV, and he was asked specifically about signing Dortmund players, and he answered it in a broad stroke sort of way. And he said that if there's something out there that's sensible and financially viable, we'll try, but we can't promise anything. So what he's basically saying out there is, well, look, we want Sancho because we need a player like Sancho. If it works financially, we'll do it. But if it doesn't, we won't. And I can't promise that we will do it. And that's a very different story. But he also said over the weekend that we've spoken in March about our targets and those targets are the same. But I think what Solskjaer is doing, and look, it's not on Solskjaer. It wasn't really on Mourinho. It wasn't really on Van Gaal. It wasn't really on Moyes to a certain extent. These managers have their list of players that they want, and they often don't get delivered. So you go back to the real issues at Manchester United, which are, what is the appetite of the owners of this football club to make this club the best club in the world or the best club in England again? Because the appetite of you and me is ravenous. We're starving to be the best club in England, and we believe we should be. Unfortunately, we're wasted because we've got no say in that. We're not the owners of this football club. Our whole future happiness and, viewing pleasure of Manchester United over the next 2, 3, 5 years is dictated to by a bunch of Americans who live in America. Actually, that's quite irrelevant. It's a bunch of Americans who are owners of our football club, and they dictate our happiness. They do. Because they could go, you know what, all I want is to see United as the best club in the world. Splash the cash, Ed. But we're a business, not a football club, and it's always going to be a very big question mark. We could sign Sancho this summer. I still believe that we will. But do we need more than Sancho? Yes, we do. Will we sign Sancho, get the number 7 shirt out, get a bit of Adidas PR spin, do a video, get a musical instrument out, and make a massive deal about it, and then pat ourselves on the back and say, job done? Probably. But it's not job done, is it? Because I do believe that we need more than that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Sancho. But it is a warning to United, and I think Solskjaer is subliminally giving a warning to United fans that, look, there may be a situation this summer where we don't get what we want, which would be a disgrace. It would be a disgrace because that team is not good enough to win a Premier League title. The first team is, but the squad, as we saw yesterday, eyes wide open. I mean, to be honest with you, that performance yesterday probably wasn't a bad thing. I thought that this morning. Probably not a bad thing to see that performance yesterday because it should be an eye-opener to Solskjaer and everyone at the club that beyond your best 11, it's not a great team. And also, look at Bruno. Look, Ricky got a lot of stick on his fan cam if you've not seen it, because he was a bit critical of Bruno. He didn't actually slate Bruno. He just said he had a bad game by his own by his own standards. And as his biggest fan, I sort of agree with that. Not Ricky, Bruno. But what about when Bruno does have a bad game? What are you going to do? Get Mata or Lingard on? This is the problem. You cannot rely on Bruno and Pogba for 60 games. There will be fatigue, there will be the odd bad game. And what about if they're having a bad game and you've got to bring Mata or Lingard on? This is the problem. The squad isn't good enough. It's a very expensive squad and it needs trimming. We've been talking about deadwood at that club for 6 years. There's still deadwood at that club earning 100 grand a week. And that is a big issue, a really big issue that needs to be solved. Alex says, Lingard, Jones, Smalling, surely you get 65 million, says Alex Voggs. I hope so. I do hope so. But I think United have, if United don't sign Sancho, it doesn't matter what PR spin they do, they're going to have big problems, because I saw somebody saying yesterday, well, what if we get Willian on loan? He's looking quite good at the moment. And I'm like, bloody hell. Willian has played well. There is a watch along today on my channel, Ewan. It's going to be Chelsea versus Leicester at 4 o'clock on Mark Goldbridge. That's football. But Willian's played well the last 2 games for Chelsea. I would agree with that. I've got no problem with saying that he's played well for Chelsea in the last 2 games. But what would be the point of signing Willian for United? He's a couple of years off his bloody pension. It's not part of what we're building, and it wouldn't be a player that Solskjaer wants, to be fair, so I wouldn't dwell on that. So, yeah, with Sancho, I think he's heading towards the exit door with Dortmund, and United need to make sure that they're at the front of that queue, which I believe they are. But I do think we need to do more than that, which leads me on to my next player, which is Jack Grealish. Now, I've seen Grealish play, probably like you, I've seen Grealish play 3 times in a week. I've probably seen him play this whole season 8 times. So, nearly 50% of his games now I've seen in a week. He is a player in a team that is their best player by a long way. He is a player that reminds me of Martial when he came on against Norwich yesterday. Martial did a lot of good things, but he was swarmed. He had like 3 or 4 players on him all the time, and he still managed to move the ball. He lost it a few times, but he still managed to make things happen, and that's very much what Grealish does for Villa. He still manages to get past a couple of players. He will, make things happen, but he's the only player in that team who's capable of doing it. I think Jack Grealish, and I will add Van der Beek into this, are essential for Manchester United. That type of a player who makes things happen, who's used to being kicked and fouled and having pressure on him, is exactly the sort of mentality United need and ability United need. Now, Villa are going to go down, and Grealish is going to leave Aston Villa. Manchester United need to be making sure they're doing that deal, or the Van der Beek deal, because they're both going to cost between 40 and 50 million pounds, and they're both going to massively improve our squad depth. So yeah, for me, Pereira and Lingard, they've got a value. Get them out and get Grealish or Van der Beek in. That, to me, is if you are going to start closing that gap on the Man Cities and the Liverpools, we can beat anybody on our day. Whether we can quite beat Liverpool yet, we haven't done that, but we can definitely beat Man City and we can definitely beat Chelsea on our day with our best 11. The problem is consistency, and consistency comes week in, week out. And if you're going to have consistency, you've got to have a squad depth. And what happened yesterday was appalling, really, because the team played really well on Wednesday, and yesterday was an opportunity for the backup players to come in and give Ollie a headache and go, ooh, they're really ready, aren't they, Carrick? Well, they weren't. McTominay didn't step up. Fred did well. Lingard and Mata and Dalot did not step up. Agallo did well. So most of them didn't step up to the plate, and that's very important, and that's why a Grealish or a Van der Beek is so important. And I think a centre defensive midfielder is important as well, because what we saw again yesterday was that Matic came in and steadied the ship, but neither Fred or McTominay really, they played together and they couldn't steady the ship. So a centre defensive midfielder is very important as well. But Grealish, to me, I think he would be a good signing for Manchester United. I've watched him a lot over the last week, and also, a few times before lockdown. But over the last week, he's really impressed me because he's playing in a team that's fighting for its life, and it's not a very good team. But he's still been their best player, but he just can't do it on his own in a team like that. Thoughts on last night's game, Mark? Says Chot Spot. I'm just very happy that United won. I'm very happy that United won the game. I thought that the result was the result that we wanted. The FA Cup draw is obviously coming in tonight. We'll have it by 8 o'clock. We'll know what the draw is. So I was very happy with the draw, with the game. As Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said afterwards, it was an opportunity for some people to get their get some game time. but some of them didn't take advantage of it, which I think was a shame on their part. But I'm very happy to win, and look, I hope we get Sheffield United or Arsenal in the semi-final. I don't want Chelsea or Man City because we've got Leicester to come before that. A little bit more news on Jude Bellingham. Apparently he's going to Dortmund. This story is not changing. It keeps coming through all the time about Bellingham going to Dortmund again. And I'll go back to what I was saying before. We wanted Haaland, we didn't get him. We wanted Bellingham, we've not got him. We wanted to keep Gomes. Is he staying or not? I mean, on Angel Gomes, can I just say there are a lot of people out there, prats I call them, who've been saying for weeks, I know such and such, I've got such and such on WhatsApp, pay me £5 a month, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you that, I'll tell you a load of bloody crap. Like, the reality is, Angel Gomes has not signed a contract, and people have been putting it out there for a long time that he has, because they're in the know. I know that Gomes has signed a contract. Load of crap. He hasn't signed the contract. And I've been saying this for 2 weeks now. He hasn't signed the contract, because if he'd signed the contract, United wouldn't let this linger. They want to announce that he's staying because it's a positive story. If he'd signed the contract on Thursday night, they'd announced it on Friday. All right, it doesn't dilute Liverpool winning the league, but it's still a little bit of positivity. And the way the mind works is that a little bit of positivity makes you feel a little bit better. United would have leaked that out. They would officially have put it out on Friday. He hasn't signed the contract. They would have put it out yesterday. They'd have put it out today. He hasn't signed the contract, Angel Gomes. There is a contract offer there. There is a belief from United that it's a fair contract, and there is a belief from United that he should sign that contract, and that he probably will sign that contract, but he hasn't signed that contract yet. Whether that means he's not going to, I'm not going to say that, but on Tuesday he could say he's leaving, and he could be off to Chelsea, and that could be, I mean, look, imagine that on Tuesday. Well, actually, it'd be Wednesday, wouldn't it? Because I don't think they can announce it until the 1st of July. Imagine that. You know, we beat Brighton, hopefully, and then on the next day, we're getting another kick in the teeth where Gomes is off to Chelsea. This will be a massive blow for United, and I still think that I would urge Manchester United Football Club to still improve massively your scouting network, your recruitment of players, and your negotiation ability, because you are still failing. I know we've got Maguire, and I know we've got Bruno, and I know we've got Wan-Bissaka, and I know we've got Dan James, and I think we will get Sancho, but I could highlight issues with every one of those deals, not in relation to the player, but in relation to the recruitment. You did overpay for Harry Maguire, and you took 6 weeks. You paid a price for Wan-Bissaka that you negotiated for a month that was the right price at the start of the month. Bruno Fernandez, you weren't going to buy him. You didn't want to buy him in the summer. You were like, no, we don't want to buy him. You desperately bought him in January because Pogba and McTominay got injured, and if they hadn't got injured, you weren't going to buy him. It's the scary truth. They were not going to buy Bruno Fernandez. They bask in the brilliance of Bruno, and I love Bruno, and I'm so happy to hear they were not going to buy him in January. He probably never would have been a United player. They snubbed buying him in the summer for whatever reason, I don't know. And they only went back in January because they didn't get Haaland, and Pogba and McTominay got injured. If they had not been injured, they would not have bought Bruno. They might have got him in the summer, but they may well not have done because there would have been competition. And in January there wasn't, and they still took ages to get him. They wanted Haaland, they didn't get him. They wanted Bellingham, they've not got him. They want to keep Gomes. Are they keeping Gomes? You know, loads of contracts get run down in this football club. There is still massive... This is nothing to do with Solskjaer. This is to do with the last 7 years of negotiations, of running contracts down, of not valuing your squad and not being attractive enough as negotiators to bring players in. We massively struggle when we've got competition. And why is that? Why? You know what? I'd love to be the negotiator for Manchester United. I would love to, because I love this football club, and many of you do as well. And if I had Bellingham at Carrington, I'd sell him the dream and more. Are we selling the dream? Are we selling the club? Are we actually going into negotiations and making that player want to come to our club? Or are we going into negotiations trying to save a fiver? And I think it's the latter. I think it is. And I go back to Perisic 3 years ago. We should have bought Perisic for Mourinho. We needed a winger, and we wouldn't go that extra bit because it was about we're not going above this price. That, as a football club, saving yourself 5 million is not how to win trophies. It's not. You've got to go that little bit extra to get the players the managers want, and that's what I want to see. So look, Gomes I hope will stay, and I think he will. He's not signed the contract yet, but if Gomes does go, do not underestimate that this is another failure in relation to the negotiation skills of Manchester United's negotiators. And they can say they're stepping in the right direction, and I think there is a move in the right direction, but that's only because the other way was such a wrong direction. You can't go, oh, look, we got Bruno and Harry, and then we didn't get Bellingham and Gomes. I mean, you've got to do better. You've got to do better. There's so many good players in Europe that are cheaper. Grealish is a squad player at best. He wouldn't get in Barca or Madrid's team. Zayn, I don't know what you're on about. He'd walk straight into the Arsenal team, and I'm not saying he'd walk into the United team. I'm specifically talking about what I saw yesterday, where Lingard, Mata, Pereira in the past, they're the backup players and they're not good enough. Grealish wouldn't start if he started Matic, Bruno and Pogba, but he'd definitely come on with like 20 minutes, half an hour to go. He'd definitely step in if somebody wasn't playing well. He'd definitely play if you've got injury or tiredness. He'd definitely play 30, 40 games a season. That's why Grealish comes in. To me, we need to look at the bench and know we've got Jack Grealish or Van der Beek. We don't need to look at the bench and go we've got Pereira or Lingard. That's what United need to do if they want to close the gap. If someone gets tired or someone's playing badly, you need somebody to come through. Right, I'm going to start taking some of your questions in a moment because I think I've covered most things. We will be live again at 8 o'clock tonight. I've got Ricky on and Saeed and Adam, so that's going to be a good show. And we'll have the cup draw for you by then. But yeah, let's take some of your questions. Brozovic of Inter, if they go in for Tonali, says Reese Love. I mean, I'd love United to sign Tonali, of course I would. But there is talk that Inter want to sign Alexis Sanchez, but I think it's just paper talk. I can't see Manchester United getting rid of Alexis Sanchez. I would like to see it. We need to prioritise Pogba's contracts as Manchester United. I mean, look, on Paul Pogba, please smash a like on the video if you're watching. We've got over 5,000 watching this Sunday morning. Let's see if we can get to 1,000 likes. And please subscribe if you're new. Some fantastic fan cams yesterday if you've not watched them all. The breadth of conversation is just amazing when I watch one person say one to another. It is fantastic. And thanks everyone who tuned in for the watch along yesterday. The community is just awe-inspiring at times. Would you sell De Gea to help fund Sancho, says Ash G. No. I mean, look, I think one thing that we've seen about De Gea over the last week is that, yes, he made a mistake against Spurs, but Henderson's no Jedi. He made mistakes against Newcastle. And Romero yesterday, I can't believe people are defending Romero yesterday. Had nothing to do all game. One shot to deal with and gets his angles completely wrong. Oh, it moved a bit. Yeah, he got his angles wrong. He didn't get his angles wrong. The ball moved a bit. You don't understand angles. Get back to maths. Like, I actually read yesterday when I said Romero's at fault for that goal. He's got his angles wrong. He's not got his angles wrong. The ball moved a bit. Yeah, you don't understand angles, mate. The whole point of a goalkeeper, when you step off your line, it's all about angles. So if I'm 5 metres off my line, my outstretched left hand, I should know that that is the post. So basically, you close your angles so that when your arms are outstretched, you know that a full strength arm left is going to hit the post or go in the bottom corner. He got his angles wrong because he's full stretch and it's still gone in the bottom corner. That's what I'm talking about. Romero is at fault for that goal. He knows he's at fault, and anybody who knows anything about football knows he's at fault. I don't need to go on about it, but what I'm saying is if De Gea does that, oh, the world's over. So De Gea's our best goalkeeper, I think, and we need to stick with him. Mark, he wouldn't have got into Invincibles. He's a squad player, no better than Wilshere. Zane, I've just bloody said that. Did I say Grealish would get in the Invincibles? Did I say Grealish starts for United? No, I've said this is a player that we need to have on the bench. United should sell Bay and Levitt and Mengi. Sorry, no, I think I've read into that. Why didn't we start Garner, Levitt and Mengi yesterday, says Ermi. I mean, I don't agree with that. I think that the youth, maybe you could have put a couple of youth players on the bench, but I don't think starting them yesterday was ever going to be happening, and I don't really criticise that for not happening. Mark, wasn't Bruno's performance affected by the Deadwood playing with us? They are not on the same wavelength as him. He was poor, yet Ricky was too harsh, says Salah Ahmed. Look, I said this on Twitter last night, and Bernd Leno says, do you think Liverpool will overtake United on Premier League titles? And Ewan Black says, if Aston Villa gets relegated, give them Jesse or Andreas, and it would be a game plus cash deal. Yeah. Jesse or Pereira wouldn't want to go though, would they? And Bernd Leno, I think Liverpool will overtake Manchester United's Premier League title or titles total, yes, unless United get their arse into gear, because who's going to stop Liverpool next year? On what Salah Ahmed said about Bruno, look, I said this yesterday. That was worse. That was Bruno's worst performance in a United shirt. And you get people going, stop hating on Bruno. I'm like, do one. Don't ever accuse me of hating on Bruno. I'm the person who wanted Bruno at this club ages before most other fans. I'm the one who absolutely said Bruno Fernandez will change this team. He is the spark that has started the fire at Manchester United. Bruno Fernandez is absolutely my favourite player, and I would stand up for him against anybody. But I tell you what, when you say that's his worst performance in a United shirt, it doesn't mean he was crap. It just means that that's probably his worst performance in a United shirt. That's just being honest, because most of his performances have been brilliant. However, Bruno's worst performance yesterday is way better than Lingard, Pereira or Mata's best performance. When one of your best players has an off day, it doesn't mean they're crap. He never stopped running, he never stopped wanting the ball, and that little flick that led to the red card was world class. So look, I think context is key here. Bruno didn't have a great game yesterday, and he did have his worst game in a United shirt, but he's hardly played for United, and he's played very well in nearly every game. So yeah, factually it was his worst game in a United shirt, but it was still way better than some of those people we've got in that squad. So I'm not worried about Bruno. You can't play brilliant every game. And I think Salah's right. He was massively impacted by the crap around him in that first half, and you could see that frustration. People weren't making the runs. At the first drink break after 20 minutes, he's shouting at people like Lingard and Agallo to make the runs. Yeah, his passing was a bit off, but you know, he's a creator. Bendia could be a great alternative. Most key passes in the Premier League behind De Bruyne, and he's superb defensively. I've been impressed by him every time I watch him, says Vedant. He's another player that will leave. And I think that's an important thing that I touched on yesterday on the watch-along. Whoever goes down, there may be players to... I was quite impressed with Cantwell. I don't think United will go for Cantwell, but I was quite impressed with him. I think we really lacked... and as a very good comment just there coming in from... Manchester G, he just said worst game and still created 5 chances. Exactly. But yeah, we really missed Wan-Bissaka yesterday. I mean, he normally locks the right hand side down, don't he? And we were really weak down that right hand side yesterday with Delo. But Cantwell played well. And look at, Villa, Grealish if they go down, and who else? I mean, look, I don't think Declan Rice is going to be anything great, but a lot of people do. If West Ham go down, he's available. I mean, what will probably happen is Bournemouth will go down and we'll get Josh King because it's Ollie's mate at the end of the day. But I don't want Josh King near this club. But there are some decent players if they go down. Andrew Chow says, bad week for United this week. Liverpool won the title. Chelsea beat Man City. So top 4 is difficult and crap performance for versus Norwich. I feel depressed. You see, I don't feel like that, Andrew, and I hope that you can take a bit of how I feel. I don't feel like that. The big performance of the week for me was Sheffield United. That was the game we needed to win. Last night we made changes and we still won. Liverpool were always going to win the league, and Man City did what Man City do. Mercenary City. That should never have been a win for Chelsea, but Man City didn't turn up. We can't do anything about that. The reason... I don't take that as a bad week. I take that as this is what happens when you drop points to Newcastle and Bournemouth and Watford over the season. You leave yourself with a very hard job to do. I think this current United side is doing well, and I think we'll beat Brighton on Tuesday, and I think we'll beat Bournemouth next week, and we'll have 6 points, and maybe somebody will have dropped points. I think Everton could take points off Leicester on Wednesday night, in which case we could be, 4 points off Leicester, as long as we keep making gaps on the people above us. And we've always got the Europa League in our back pocket, which I actually think the Europa League will be harder to win than get top 4 at this point. But I'm not overly, I don't feel depressed. I don't feel down. I feel anxious and I feel angry. I want to see Manchester United close that gap on Liverpool, and I don't know whether we're going to do enough about it. Do you think Sancho being on the bench yesterday has an effect on the relationship with Dortmund? Sancho has nothing to prove anymore there. Yeah, I think Sancho's looking to get out of Dortmund, yes, definitely. And Zane says, I think Bruno, Pogba and Martial won't stay at United as they can't win trophies there. Klopp and Barca and Real will come in. That's not a bad point from Zane. I mean, sometimes he makes decent points. This is the challenge with Manchester United. And just going back to talking about Pogba, I think we all want Pogba to sign a new contract. Even the people who don't like Pogba seem to have calmed down a little bit. You're always wondering when the next Mino Raiola comment about leaving is, and that will create problems for Pogba again. So hopefully Pogba's got him shut up. But do I think that Pogba's close to signing a new contract? No, I don't. I don't think he is. I just think we're in that situation now where the less talk about the move, the better, and the better Man United play on the pitch, the better. You've got to convince Pogba to want to sign a contract. And the funny thing is, we say United sign a new contract for Pogba. Can I just say this, and nobody's saying this, what makes you think there's a contract on offer for Paul Pogba? Why? I don't think there is. We let De Gea and Anthony Martial's contract go to the last year. Pogba's got 2 years left on his contract. Manchester, and this is one of the big issues at Manchester United. Get your head around this. We're all saying, please don't go next summer, Pogba, and sign a new contract. Where is the new contract? There isn't one. I don't know whether Pogba would sign it, but I'd guarantee you there isn't one being offered. Because United's track record is Herrera's contract run down, Mata's contract run down, Martial's contract run down, De Gea's contract run down, Gomes' contract run down. I can't remember the last time we got somebody to sign a new contract with about 2 years left on their contract, like a decent club does. We let contracts run down because, mate, let's say Pogba's on 300k a week at the moment, right? His new contract's probably going to be 350, 400k a week. So United would go, well, if we give him that new contract now, we're paying him another 100k a week for 2 years when we don't need to. Let's just pay him 300k a week for the last 2 years, and then right at the end, we'll give him the 400k. High five, Ed. We've just saved ourselves 100k a week. We're off to Benidorm. So that is what United do. So all these people, and I've said it, I'd love to get Pogba on a new contract so he stays at the club. Again, I was thinking about it last night and I thought, I bet we won't have even offered him a new contract because that's not what we do. Because we're a bloody business again and not a football club. A proper football club. And look, I hate to say this, a Man City or a Liverpool would have the contract there for Pogba and they'd be saying sign it for the next year. I don't think we've got the contract out because we'll be happily letting it roll down because we don't want to pay any more bloody money. And this is the problem with the club. Rio again tweeted yesterday that we need Godfrey, says Sartak. Who's Godfrey? And Yankee Wiz, love you, Mark, but Sophie and Adam are better than Saeed, Ricky and Rance. Okay? It's all about opinion. There's different opinions on the fan cams if you've not seen them. I'd rather have Grealish and Campbell than Jay Lings and Andreas Pereira, says Alan. There's a lot of players I'd rather have than those two. And Zane has, he's worth 100 million. Of course, we are offering him a contract, says Mark Miller. We're not offering him You don't listen, mate. Why don't people listen to what I'm saying? David De Gea was worth money. Anthony Martial was worth money. We let the contracts run down. You're talking like the club's run like a football club. We're run like a business. The contract should be there for Pogba to sign now, and whether he signs it or not is another thing. But with 2 years left on his contract, do you think Manchester United are there offering him an improved one? No way. We won't be offering him a new contract. And I'd love to be proved wrong, but the evidence is there with numerous players over the last 2 years that no matter how good and valuable they are, will let the contract run down. Ander Herrera walked out of this club. I mean, you say of course we've offered him a new contract. He's worth 100 million quid. Bollocks. Ander Herrera walked out of this club at what, 29, 28, worth 30 million quid, and we basically waved goodbye to a bag of cash because we wouldn't negotiate with him until his contract had run down. This is what we do. These are areas we need to improve in. Godfrey's Norwich centre-back played yesterday, says Sartak. Well, I didn't even notice him. So if Rio Ferdinand is saying we need to sign him, I'm sorry. I didn't even notice that centre-back, so we don't need to sign him. Bayern just confirmed no offers made for Sancho, says Infinity Max. Oh, well, I'd read that before. I mean, I'm not... That doesn't concern me at all, to be honest. I don't know why you would offer any... I don't know why anybody would offer any money for Jadon Sancho at the moment because the season's not even over. There could be a second wave. You know, that virus is still there. And if you put an offer in and had it accepted and got the deal done, which you actually can't do till the... No, I think people... Look, I suppose you've got different levels of knowledge of transfers, and I'm not saying I'm a transfer guru by any sense, but I do know quite a bit about transfers, and the point remains that only an idiot would put a bid in for Dortmund at the moment. Oh, United have? No, I'm joking. Yeah, because the window's not open, and there's just no need to do it. It doesn't mean that people aren't interested. There's a time to do it. The Werner thing was because his release clause was at the start of June. That's why that deal was done. There's no release clause for Sancho. There's no reason to... There's no deadline for it. There's no reason to put a bid in yet. That will come in August. I think the German league finishes soon, though, to be honest. Still think we need a proper out-and-out striker, says Mo Sidat. And so many football manager names being thrown around... says Al Dawood. Sancho would never go to Bayern. He's trying to get away from Germany. No, he won't go to Bayern. They're going to get Sane there. That's their winger. They won't sign Sancho. I think if he was German, they'd be very interested. Joe, too early to make offers right now, but very soon, though, as Dortmund played their last game, knocked out of Champions League, so no left. So, is the Bundesliga finished already? Welcome to Jordan Fogarty, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. I am doing a watch-along today, Farah, on Mark Goldbridge, That's Football. Chelsea against Leicester at 4 o'clock. Germany's already done. Okay, so, there you go then. So Jadon Sancho in the last 2 games for Dortmund ends up on the bench. There'll be a lot of talk about Sancho over the next few weeks, but we've still got a month before the transfer window opens. So I just think Sancho probably goes and has a bit of a holiday, doesn't he? I was angry with Ricky last night, says Nick P. Not because I didn't agree with him, but I knew he would go in on Bruno before the game. He doesn't rate him at all. Well, if you haven't seen Ricky's fan cam, you can pick it up tonight, because I'll be talking to him at 8 o'clock tonight about it. But ultimately, everybody's got players they like and they don't like. And I don't know how you can be critical of Bruno yesterday and then say it's not Mata's fault. But people have different thoughts, and ultimately, I think when you've got agendas, you will end up making yourself look a bit silly, which is why I always use Matic as an example for myself. I was very, very critical of Matic, but he's fantastic now, and that's why people say, "Oh, you hate Fellaini, you hate this player." I don't hate any player. I can dislike what they're doing in a United shirt, and I'll be very critical. But if they turn it around, I will say, "Well, look, that's what we wanted." I'm not going to keep the agenda against the player. I don't have an agenda against any player. I can change my opinion on a player if they change how they're performing. I'd be very willing to say Jesse Lingard is the future of Manchester United if I could see that, but I can't. And the same with Pereira, and the same with Mata. So, but when you keep an agenda against a player, you can make yourself look a little bit stupid when they actually are performing. I think some people have kept this agenda against Luke Shaw, and actually he's playing very well at the moment. I still think he's playing very well. Harry Maguire, apart from a mistake against Spurs, I think he is playing well. He needs a bit of pace next to him. I'm not sure it should be Eric Bailly's pace, but we'll talk. I want to talk about that tonight anyway, because I know Ricky's not a big fan of Bailly, so I want to talk about the centre-back bit. But look, thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and we are back at 8 o'clock tonight. We'll have the cup draw by then as well. Got the boys on for the debrief, and if you want to join me on Mark Goldbridge, That's Football, I'm doing a watch-along at 4 o'clock for Leicester against Chelsea in the Cup. So thanks everyone for watching. Don't feel down. Feel positive, and we walk on. Not like that. We'd rather walk alone. Speak to you in a bit.